running, right? So we can get out of here at a good time on Friday.
Yeah.
Spring break is waiting.
Yeah.
And I'll give you one of these. There. I don't see any clients in the building, but you never know. Yeah, the fourth team came in. So all right, we got 2. 1, 2, 3.
That's so far, anyway.
All right. 4.
Yeah. I mean, no, now. So, fix the lights.
You want a presentation? You want a presentation mode? Yeah. It's set to presentation mode.
These lights are not.
Oh, no.
Yes. Yeah, it would be more often. So, none of these are on.
I'm sorry, that one's on. I think maybe this one's
Right, so this one might be burned out.
Yeah.
There, that's something.
These.
Yeah.
There's only one set. One color.
One color, you're on the stick, but that's okay.
Yeah, no, too much green.
Sorry. Better to see you than not.
So welcome to the last day of Halves. Yay, spring break's in front of us. What we're going to do after we present 4 projects, we're going to take a 5-minute or so break. So we're present 4, 5 or so minute break. We hate sitting in these seats, so we just want to get up and move around, then put ourselves back and have the last 3. So 7 projects today, 7 projects between us and spring break. So we're going to have good questions. Welcome to any guests that are in the building. Welcome to any clients that are in the building. It's good that you guys are all here, and hopefully we'll have a good, lively session between us and spring break. So I think we're going to, and apologies, we just noticed one of the lights are out, so, oh well, when you find your light, you're going to be finding your partial light up here. So we'll make do. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Tords.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming to our presentation. We're Team Towards. So here we have Minghao and Yufei as our 3D artists. We have Wei Ye as our UI and UX designer. We have Yuchen as our programmer and game designer. We have Nelly as our producer and programmer, and me as a producer and narrative designer. On the faculty side, we have Mike as our project instructor, and we also have Tom as our project consultant. Now I'm gonna hand over to Nelly to talk about the overview of our project.
So I'm gonna first talk about some just relevant other groups. We don't have an official client, but we've visited and been in contact with some other organizations that are interested in our work and who helped inform our project. So first is the National Road Museum in Zanesville, Ohio. It features dioramas that visualize how the road was constructed in the early 1800s and expanded through the country. So for reference or as a reminder, the National Road was the first federally funded highway in the United States, and also at one point called the Main Street of America. The museum showcases how many towns popped up along the road and how they evolved along with the road as the nature of transportation and the modes of transportation changed. Next is Seawright's Toll House, which is a stop along the National Road, and that's local to Western Pennsylvania, where tolls were collected once the federal government stopped funding the highway and the states had to become responsible for maintaining their roads. Finally is the Portals Project, which is a program for local high school students in Brownsville, Pennsylvania. And this organization takes 3D scans of historical locations for educational and preservational purposes. So their scanned buildings include stops on the National Road like Seawright's Toll House, and this image on the left is their rendered model of the toll house, which will be part of the experience that we build, and we'll talk about that more a little bit later in the presentation. Our project fits in with these efforts to preserve historical knowledge and connect it to the people and technology of the future. Now let's go into what we're actually building this semester. We're creating an AR mobile application designed for phones that allows players to experience life on the National Road and feel as though they are influential in the construction of the road and the development of a local town. To help us create an AR experience, we are using the Niantic Spatial Platform package for Unity. In this project, we want to take advantage of AR as a means of turning everyday devices of a phone into a portal that can transport people to a specific time and place in history, no matter where they actually are. One major advantage of AR is the ability to showcase historical artifacts in their true scale, which helps evoke similar emotions to seeing, for example, a massive Conestoga wagon in person at the museum without having to physically be there. The Niantic SDK also has a feature for detecting different semantic layers, such as the ground and sky, which we can use in order to let us better render and orient the environment of the historic road in the real world. You may remember that at quarters, we were deciding on whether we should create an indoor tabletop experience or an outdoor experience with life-sized models. Ultimately, we decided that the latter was a better utilization of the unique features that Niantic provides. The target audience of this experience is pretty broad because we are designing for basically anyone that is learning about the history of the National Road. Our experience is intended as a supplement to a relevant educational experience, such as either visiting the National Road Museum or learning about this time period of history in school, especially since we are very limited in how much information we can tell players because reading text on a phone screen outside is difficult. We want our experience to be playable from pretty much any outdoor open area and to be fully completable in about 10 minutes or less. We designed 3 chapters of the game to match the actual evolution of the National Road. In Chapter 1, players are in a dense forest where they have to cut down trees to clear a path. This is reminiscent of the earliest phases of the National Road, where people who were given land out west contributed to building the road so that they could actually reach their properties. The main mechanic is chopping down trees so the player and their horse can make it through. And the reward for achieving that goal is witnessing the formation of a town along the National Road, which the player will continue to develop. After reaching Chapter 2, this is the core part of the experience, players become the keeper of the toll house. This phase reflects the point in history where the road has been mostly constructed and there is frequent commerce and traffic. The primary goal here is to collect tolls and raise money for road maintenance and further development. They are also able to see life-size animals and wagons passing by and interact with them in the AR view. Eventually, the player is rewarded for their work as the toll house keeper with reaching the final chapter of the experience, which is the developed town. They will be able to walk around and have an immersive experience in the 19th century with more characters and animals moving around that can be interacted with and will teach players stories about that time. The overall experience design was created to emphasize elements that require walking around and looking without extremely complicated mechanics, since this is what AR is best suited to do. Now I'm going to pass it to Yu-Chen to talk more about the tech side and the prototypes.
Yeah. Now, let's watch a demo video of our current prototype for the Chapter 1. In this chapter, you are going to help a horse move across a dense forest by clearing up the path by cutting trees. As you can see, every time you cut down a tree and clean up an area, the horse will move forward a little bit. And we iterate this prototype through 2 playtesting. In the first playtest, we learned that the chopping tree mechanics works pretty well as AR interactions. However, we still need adding more feedbacks to it to make it feel more responsive. We also learned that talking with a horse is kind of interesting, but the complex dialogue system are not fit our game for the mobile AR. In the second playtest, we got positive feedbacks on the chopping tree mechanics, and we also learned that we kind of need to give players a larger goal for their interactions, so their interactions can feel more meaningful. As you can see, here is how we designed the chopping mechanics. You can tap or swiping on the screen, and the phone can detect your input and perform to chop the tree by an axe or chop it down with a saw. And with our code, we can help the horse get through the forest. And you will talk with this horse and learn your quest.
So apart from those gameplay mechanics, we also had to do a bit more back-end work with the Niantic package to figure out how to actually lay out the scene we're rendering and where the player is going to be walking. So here we can see the ground being scanned. Over here, it's waiting until it hits a minimum length and width that we need of open area, and then it can display the town. So while rendering the road seems like a simple enough task, this actually was not very trivial. So over here is sort of the scene view of what's going on. So the only data that we have from Niantic's SDK is just some mesh objects during the runtime that represent different pieces of the ground. So we had to find a way to take that data and extract out the primary direction of the ground that the player is scanning. So eventually, with some linear algebra and statistical analysis, we're able to get that red line that you see is the current length and direction of the road. And when it hits the minimum, it is able to spawn it in that direction right on top of it. And now I'm going to pass it to Junru to talk about narrative.
Okay, so we want to make our game interesting, but also respect the history at the same time. Therefore, we plan to apply the fun facts we collected from our field trips into our game's narrative. One example is that we heard that the rest spots were much harder for the travelers comparing with their horses. For example, a traveler might have to sleep in a shabby room shared with 10 other strangers, but their horse are able to stay in a clean stable with food and someone to brush their hair. So we feel like this story could be interesting if heard from both the perspective from the traveler and the perspective with their horses. That's why we added a talking horse in our game. And also, there are many interesting stories about the life for a toll housekeeper, but due to time limitation, we won't go into details into these. Another use of the narrative is to send requests to the players. As Natalie just introduced, that when the player does not know what to do in Chapter 1, they're able to receive instructions from the horse by having conversation with it. Now I'm going to hand over to Wei-Ye to talk about the the art.
Okay, thank you, Junru. So for the UI design, I combined the takeaways from the 2 field trips and also making some researches on the UI style and also some design principles for AR. So from the field trips, I tried to use the elements from the old items like the visual elements, like the shape, like layout, the fronts, to make the UI more historic. And I also researched some other apps in the market to learn the user flow and how to make sure the UI can be visible and usable for the users. So I designed this UI for now, and so on the top left corner, it's the intro UI for our game. I combine the elements from the ticket, try to lead the users have the feeling that okay, you are going to journey to the west, and on the top, the middle, it's the two old items. One is the mile markers, and the other is the blue box. We want to use the old items to remind people about the elements on the National Road. And then we have 3 chapters. So in the bottom, I also designed a newspaper to tell a story at the beginning of each chapter. Now let's go into the art. Let's welcome Minhao.
In the earlier semester, we proved that the mobile devices have the ability to render a few high detail models using the Niantic package. Considering our project does not have that many high quality assets, and also considering its historical relevance, we decided to pursue a more realistic style for our project. We referenced the miniatures in the National Rail Museum and also games like Red Dead Redemption for the style we want to achieve. We obtained some ready-made animal models, and we finished the rigging for the horse and the cattle. Here's the horse talking animation that was mentioned earlier. And here's the horse walking cycle.
Next, I will talk about some other art assets of our project. As my teammates have mentioned, cutting down the trees and allowing the horse to move forward is a very important feature of our level 1. And this is the tree sample we modeled that will be used in our levels. This is our dirt road. Before, we applied textures on the ground mesh and rendered by the Niantic SDK. However, it looked very choppy and broken and didn't repeat very well. To improve this, we used textures and shaders that uses the world position instead of mesh. This allows us to render a smoother ground and use Niantic semantic layers only for the backend. This is the Searite Toll House building. We got a very detailed and accurate scan, and we fixed the UVs and mesh and applied some simple textures. This is the rendered image we got using Maya Arnold. This is just some other tools that will be used for cutting down the trees in our game. Next, I'm going to pass it to Junru again.
So here's our plan in the future. After spring break, we'll start to work on chapter 2. Since we're reusing mechanism for chapter 2 and 3, we are confident that the feature development could be done at week 10, then and ready for the ETC playtest. With the feedback received from the playtest, will be keep further development and have a beta version at week 12, and it's ready for which is a beta version for software opening. After software opening, we'll keep polishing the game and add more details and be until week 15. So that's all about our presentation. Thank you for listening. We would appreciate any questions and feedback.
Can you talk a little bit more about why you want your guests to chop wood, and how much wood chopping would one guest do in your experience? How much wood would a guest chop if a guest?
We want our guests to chop the trees because that's a very important period in like the westward movement. And we kind of want to represent what the people's life is like in that period. During that time, they have to like chop down the trees to create a road so they will not get lost in the forest. And also, for now, our demo is a little bit too long. It's like 10 minutes of gameplay, and we kind of want to make it shorten. So you will chop down some trees, but not a lot. Like maybe 3 minutes of gameplay.
I don't need that, it's fine. So how long of an experience would take for me to get through the whole gameplay, the whole experience?
Yeah, I think the whole gameplay will be like 10 minutes, and each chapter will be around like 3 minutes.
And that, the westward thing you have posted on the screen, horse trap, is that real or did you make that up?
We'll make that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to know, thanks.
I don't need the mic. So, the context in which I see the horse implies that this is a draft animal, correct? A working horse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Why does it have a saddle on?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Why does it have a saddle on?
Oh, saddle.
Because it's a working horse. People ride on.
Working horse.
They also ride on it, right? It's like
So they're attached to something and they're gonna pull it. You wouldn't put a saddle on a horse.
okay.
It's gonna pull a log across a stretch
Yeah, we will consider about a saddle.
Yeah, this was an external model. We'll edit it, yeah.
I'm just suggesting is, it just looks weird to me that that's the horse that you would ride if you were on a range. Weird.
Okay.
We'll consider that.
Yeah, thank you.
What do you expect your users to get out of this? Is it educational? Is it entertainment? Somehow immersive? What do I feel after I do this?
I think we want it to be somewhat educational. We want definitely people to walk away feeling like they understand more of the history of the time period. We just want them to feel like they have influence over this town that they're building and that they understand what people at the time went through to some degree in making this history. Does that answer that question?
Then there has to be a lot more than just clearing the trees. If I have investment in this town, there's so much more. Do you show so much more?
We're a little bit limited in showing a lot because we can't have that much dialogue or text on screen. But yeah, in the next chapters of the experience, we want to show more of the town, have more characters and stories, and yeah, have a lot more interaction and stories than just chopping down trees.
So towards those goals that you guys have been talking about, which of these 3 chapters do you think is the most important? Which one is the second most, and which one is important but not as important? Like, can you rate these in order of which one you should definitely get done?
I think for our next important step is the chapter 2, which you will experience the life of a toll house worker. And you player will learn why they need like a toll house at the road.
It's time. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks. Hello.
Okay. Hi, we're Haptic Waves. We're a faculty pitch exploring haptic and audio design. This is our team, and this is our support, which includes our faculty advisors, our consultant, our SME, and we have 2 external part-time programmers. Let's dive into a quick overview of our project. So, Haptic Waves is an exploratory project, and we aim to create and design unique sensory experiences, mostly focusing on haptics, specifically touch and feel, and audio. The design pillars that we're factoring into the decisions we make are that we want to be experimental, we want to use minimal visuals, and we want to push our guests to focus mostly on sound and touch. For our hardware, we are using haptic vests, and we also have created a few of our own custom haptic devices, including floor haptics and a wirelessly controlled motor. We'll go into that more later in the slides. We also chose to work with the Quest 3 primarily for its tracking and spatial audio abilities, and it has shown us through playtesting and research that low visual VR can be very compelling. Our project is exploratory, and so we dedicated our first half to experimenting with the hardware and tech while also learning more about compelling audio design. For the second half of our semester, we plan to take what we've learned and integrate it into an entire full one experience. So, how did we explore? We looked into existing projects in media. For example, we looked at audio-driven video games and low-visual VR games. We also looked at past ETC projects. This helped us identify successful design techniques and learn how to scope for a project like this. A big part of our research was learning and trying haptic and audio devices and exploring new audio design techniques. It was interesting to see that the most commercially available haptic devices acted as secondary feedback for very visually heavy media. But we wanted to bring haptic feedback to the front as a primary feedback device, specifically through haptic vests and spatial audio. After research, we entered our ideation phase, but we realized that to design the right experience, there were design questions we needed to answer and assumptions we needed to validate. A lot of our questions centered around how to mostly use touch and sound to cue a guest through an entire experience, and to find the right amount of minimal visuals for an interactive experience. To get answers to all of the questions, we started off by creating some theme design scenarios. That's how we ended up with 2 different designs we wanted to prototype. Low visual VR underwater experience, and an audio haptic only experience set deep in the forest.
Okay, so now let's move on to our first prototype, the low visual VR project we call echolocation. Whale is the starting point of our ideation because whales are the animals that rely more on sound than vision. They have a special function called echolocation. They emit high-frequency sound waves that bounces back as signals to help them navigate. Inspired by whale's unique sensory system, we designed a first-person VR experience where the players play the role as the whale to navigate in the deep ocean using the audio and minimal visual cues to help them find the pod. We think VR would be a good platform for us because VR provides us with controllable visuals, precise tracking, and immersive 3D audio. The reason why we're designing this experience is because we want to explore 3 key questions. The first one is, what is the minimal visual cue needed for effective navigation? The second one is, can a visually able player fully rely on audio to navigate? And the third question is, how do players build mental spatial map using the sound only? So this leads to our design. The players are given a relatively small area of visibility, and first they would send the signal to the underwater environment like a whale. And then the sound would hit some obstacles in the underwater environment like the corals, the seaweed, or the rock. And then the area of that obstacle will reveal for around like 3 seconds. And then the audio signals would bounce back with both impact sound and the echoes. And using this information, the player, like this, and using this information, the players would move forward to navigate. One of our design highlights is the transition from day to night. As the player progresses, the skybox gets darkened and also the area of visibility gets smaller. Our goal is to create a gradual and unconscious shift from vision-based navigation to relying more on audio. Another design highlight is that we introduce some protruding obstacles in our environment so that we can prevent the players from using their visual assumptions or common sense to navigate. This prototype is still in the iteration stage, and based on our internal playtest feedback, we found that the players can actually successfully build a mental spatial map with the limited cues that they have in the environment, because each echolocation only reveals a small portion of the environment. But our main difficulty is that it's kind of difficult to navigate in the nighttime, and some players said that they feel kind of scary when seeing that they're in completely dark. So we would work on better 3D sound design in the following 1 to 2 weeks to iterate this prototype.
Our second prototype was exploring haptic and audio spatial sound only by choosing to do a sensing the wilderness, where a guest will explore the wilderness in a way that, and events that take place in there, but only using audio, spatial sound, and haptic feedback devices. Some of the ones that we thought were very responsive to this experience was a haptic vest, a wireless motor, as well as a haptic flooring, and this, of course, the spatial sound. Now, this singles a person who will have a primarily passive live experience, but they will navigate the space and with the different textures and the sounds and the feedback in a way that will allow them to have complete immersive experience. How are we going to do that? So first, will they be able to have and understand this experience only through sound and haptic feedback devices? So that was one question we needed to answer. The other one was how little visuals can we get away with so that it is completely immersive in a way that they will feel like they have a complete experience. And lastly, we had to learn spatial audio design. Experiencing a stampede was one of our first events. And so what we did is we centered a person on a stampede observation deck where they will be where they will be above a cliff of where a migration path is laid, where animals will be traveling from one side of the space to the other. So our spatial audio was moving the sound from one side of the room to the other while they stood upon a haptic floor. All of this while no visuals. Our next one was event is a pacing panther. The individual wanders into a space that is actually a den of a panther. And that panther is assessing this individual as a threat or not a threat. It will growl if it thinks you're a threat. Otherwise, it'll just leave you alone, eventually assessing you not to be a threat. And we have a little prototype video to go along with that.
Okay, so here is our Stampede playtest setup. So we have two speakers at the left and the right, and we arranged them to make the audio sounds like the animal, a huge group of animals crossing by. And we got a lot of valuable playtest feedback. So the first one is with no context given, we are very surprised that every playtester's guessed the experience was sort of related to Stampede. People's food are more sensitive than we expected. So because our floor haptic is a wooden making thing, so some people would think of this experiences in a wooden house when they step on the floor haptic. We should dress up the floor haptic more and change the texture for it. And also, we have a question asking the playtesters what are the other sensories you expect that will strengthen this experience. Smell stands out, so that is something we should think about to give players a more immersiveness. And lastly, when they're standing on the floor haptic, they are not only satisfying with just standing there, they also expect to participate more and engage more. Here's our Pacing Panther playtest setup. We asked the playtesters to keep their eyes closed, and we are not gonna tell them any context of it. We'll just see how they naturally respond to a situation like this when they hear animal danger sound. And for our future designs, and the teammates is holding the phone and works around the playtesters with a series of animal roaring sound. So the goal of it is just like give us a sense whether they will what kind of things they can do. And based on the feedback, we acknowledge that although the most playtesters took a half step, they still knew like this situation is very dangerous and they better not to move. So that of course to what we expected. And secondly, we are surprised that people felt it was so fun by not getting exposed to any of the context. So the scare of or curiosity will make them enjoy this so much. And that just gives us a sense of, oh, in the future, maybe we should not provide so much instructions to our full experience. And lastly, smell also stands out.
All right. Another part of our research and prototyping phase was building custom haptics. We quickly realized we wanted haptic devices that fit our design needs exactly. And also we just wanted to learn how to build them. So we started off with a floor haptic device. So when we were ideating for the Stampede scenario that we went over, we started thinking, oh, we want the ground to shake. We want that feel. So we came up with a device and we worked with Dave Perda and Ruth Comley to build this. We put 2 base shakers on the underside of the wooden platform. This worked surprisingly well. They were able to identify it was a stampede, it mimicked that feeling, but we had to really tailor the sound haptic file to create the right effect. The second one is wirelessly controlled motors. So when we were ideating for echolocation, we realized whales echolocate using their jaw. So we're like, oh, what if we put haptic devices on our jaws or different parts of the body? So we made these wirelessly controlled motors, and we hope to create custom props for the experience, which have haptic feedback. The third one is bass and sound. So we have 3306, so we put 2 full-range speakers and a really strong subwoofer in the room, and we're aiming to use that to shake the room and the people in the room essentially, and it creates a whole new layer of haptic effect. So yeah, we're hoping to add to that, especially for people who are just bystanders and they're watching the experience. So moving forward, the 3 big takeaways from everything we've done up till now is that people can navigate with sound and touch only, but there are some knowledge gaps and contextual gaps they have, and they try to fill that with assumptions and imagination, which we have to accommodate for. The second is VR can be compelling with low visuals, but it will need intentional level design. That means we have to spend time on our level design going forward. And the third one is that as a team, we just want to create our own custom haptic devices that fit our experience rather than designing for a commercial gadget. Okay, so how do we move forward? We want to integrate everything we have learned into one full experience, and it will be successful only if the guest comes out and tells us, or if we observe that they found it immersive for the whole full experience or at some points, or, and also if they had to rely on body and spatial audio awareness to engage with that experience. So those are 2 success metrics. We do foresee challenges in our path forward. The one that we really want to highlight is how do we transition from exploratory to making the project? How do we integrate everything we've learned into one full experience? Do we merge the 2 prototypes? Do we pick one? Do we think of a new theme that fits what we've learned? So yes, so any suggestions or feedback to help us tackle this will be really appreciated. And that's it. Thank you.
There was a line you mentioned, which I thought was really crucial, which was how much, I'll paraphrase, how much context do you verbally explain to the guests before you sort of put them in the experience, right? Because effectively you can pollute the experience by giving them too much information. And that gets balanced against the visual input, which is not really your purview. So can you talk a little bit about best practices you took away from that, if any at this point? I'm just curious.
So if in our play test, we definitely needed to know how much was needed. So by giving them nothing, we realized that they were able to deduce from the sounds and the haptic experience a lot of what was going on. Some thought it was a cow instead of a panther, but a lot of animals that are low moan sound similar. Moving forward with the visuals, there's a lot of balancing that needs to be done. I don't have one answer for that, but a lot of it did come through play testing, either with context and without.
Yeah, I want to add to, oh, sorry. Okay, I wanted to add to that. Another thing we tried was we did 2 types of tests. We did with context and then without. And then that also told us how much, we told them don't move. And then we also told them do whatever you want when the panther is lurking. So their responses were different. Even for, even for the visual feedback, we intentionally started with the lowest visual feedback we can give them and then tried to go up from there.
Yeah, quick comment. I would want to have tried the panther thing in the dark. Because you're activating a part of the brain that responds to animal sounds in the dark.
Yeah, they did have their eyes closed though, but they did have their eyes closed.
But yeah, next step would be that, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Let me get the mic before Steve tells me I need to be on the mic again. So So with the audio experience only, have you thought about working with visually impaired people? And doing some play testing with them?
We have reached out to the School for the Blind that's most local to the area. We haven't fully received a response, but we've also been in communication with some of the playtesting. We've been in touch with Anthony, who also told us that he could help us get in contact with them as well.
But to answer more, we're not designing strictly for visually impaired. We are aiming for visually abled people, and the reason is that this is already pretty overscoped as a project given our team dynamic, so we want to make sure that we're able to achieve at least some of the design goals that we have.
Yeah, along those lines, your project has this very experimental nature to it. It seems like you're trying to answer a question. I'm not sure what that question is, though. Can you talk about that? If there is a question, why are you trying to answer this question?
Yeah, I can touch on that a little bit. So the question that we are trying to answer is, we want to see how people react to some of the lesser senses that are often utilized within like gaming and VR and interactive media. So specifically lowering the visual amounts and then trying to ramp up like touching and feeling and haptic sensories as well as audio and try and make that the basis for our experience.
The reason why that's hard, though, is that haptic experiences work best when it's married to like audiovisual experiences, right? Like the experience design goes way up when you combine those elements together. So it's an interesting space you're exploring, but I'm not sure why we're doing that. And so I was thinking in a similar space of working with visually impaired people.
Yeah, and I think for us, doing our research, we realized too that they're using a lot of these devices just primarily in like first-person shooters and big bang and movement type things. There's a lack of imagination in the industry right now on how to use them. So one of the challenges for us is if you take away visuals, how do you heighten the senses, the uses of these haptic devices to increase this other senses involvement in the experience? You good?
Okay, that's good. We're at time. Thank you.
Okay. Hello everyone, this is Team EcoVision. We are happy to show you our Halves presentation. We have Jessica and Mike as our instructor and Drew as our consultant. This is our team. I'm Ayaka, the producer, artist, and game designer. Shun, the co-producer, and also the tech artist. Annie, the programmer. Victor, game designer. Sally and Aurora are our artists and game designers. Our project goal is to create an immersive VR experience to motivate players to engage with environmental issues, empowering them to believe in their ability to make a positive impact on climate change. Our target is 11 to 14 years old children, and our ideal play scene is after school class. Let's see what we have now. In the beginning of the game, the player will shrink to 20 centimeters in height. They will meet a guide and get a quest from him, which is collecting the maple leaves and put them on flower bed to make nutrient. We will also have some interactable content and content or like animals, vegetations to make the experience immersive.
So our project goal is to educate children and teenagers about environmental protection through interactive gameplay in a VR backyard. And we also want to make the audience aware of hidden ecosystems that they might not notice at their normal size. By playing this game, they can get knowledge about small actions in their backyard that can help protect the local ecosystem and wildlife. And by making this game, we want players to feel that even a small body and the small actions can contribute to the environment around us. And everyone can help support the ecosystem through small actions. So why turning into a small person? During the quarters, we have received many questions about how an individual's actions could influence climate change, which is often seen as too big of an issue for individuals to impact. This was a great point in relation to our project goal. One of the biggest barriers to climate action is a feeling of despair, and people believing that nothing they do will make a difference. This is exactly what we want to address. And to help people feel less despairing, we have came up with the idea of metaphoring physical size. And this shows the individual power effort matter even when they are tiny. And also, improving backyard biodiversity is achievable, has a direct impact on the local ecosystem, and allows players to see real-world effects. We also got some article support. Dogwood Alliance is an environmental protection group working to boost local biodiversity through small actions. And this can show that boost local biodiversity is achievable and have a positive impact.
After our goal was settled, we broke it down to establish critical guidelines that we can follow. The first guideline will be fact-based and trustworthy. We develop our game with scientific accuracy to ensure our children's concept acquisition. We teach them correct things. The second guideline is learning through playing. We design an engaging gameplay experience to captivate players and raise their motivation to explore deeper to the game, and the learning process can follow. We will also maintain control of the gameplay contents we showed to make sure that they are not drawing too much attention. The third guideline is we will be visually invitable and approachable. We create an welcoming atmosphere to address players' concerns and make them feel that they are safe and open to explore. We avoid disgusting contents by being selective in what we are presenting and using a cartoonish art style. As we move forward, we make sure our guidelines are met. Through subject matter expert interviews, we can collect precise and accurate information that will accompany with our own research. With rapid playtests, we ensure our players are actually learning through playing as we intended, and the game contents we show are visibly appropriate. For an SME interview, we contacted Mrs. Bodek, a natural resource specialist at the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. During the interview, we presented our level structure to Mrs. Bodek, including 3 levels as follows: a pond level, under tree level, collecting leaves to serve as nutrients, and a pond level about removing algae and managing water circulation devices, and upper tree level about making an artificial bird nest. Our experts presented detailed feedback for each part. Combining their feedback and the further research that we made several improvements to our level structure design. The first level now takes place in a small garden about collecting maple leaves as well as tree bark to cover exposed soil and serve as shelter for insects. The pond level is now narrowed down to a small natural water basin, improving the scale and its water quality to serve as water sources for birds and other wildlife. This level will include actions like digging the dirt, placing rocks, and removing overgrown algae. Regarding the upper tree level, instead of making an artificial bird nest, the players will now removing the harmful materials away from the bird nests.
We went to playtest nights and we had 15 playtesters. We asked each one for feedback. We prepared a questionnaire for them regarding the purpose and experience in advance, and in real playtest, we focused it on questions regarding the scale, the gameplay, and art style. First, about the scale, the players said that they didn't feel small enough, so after we rescaled the environment, in the next playtest, most players feel they're smaller in the environment. We also got feedback about NPC guidance and hand interactions. So after we refined NPC interactions, the voice now only highlights key actions, and the NPC moved around dynamically based on players' progress. And also we applied two-hand interaction based on playtesters' feedback. In the next playtest night, we observed expected improvements in the experience, and some details still need to be refined. We are actively working on enhancements and looking forward to the next playtest.
Our art style is soft and semi-realistic, using hand-painted textures to create a warm, inviting atmosphere. We aim to make the backyard feel immersive and magical, enhancing the sense of wonder from a miniature perspective. The playtest feedback on the early art mentions that it feels inconsistent, with leaves not matching the environment. Players also expect more cohesive, interactive elements like flowers and houses. Based on playtest feedback, we are refining key aspects to enhance player experience while staying true to our vision. To better convey the sense of scale, we will add a transition effect for the shrinking process and incorporate environmental layers. To improve guidance, we'll add VFX towards objectives. Dialogue is key to communicating our transformational goal. Right now, we are using only voiceover for our guide, but playtesting has shown that players often struggle to stay focused on the voiceover, leading to missed information. To improve the experience, we need to incorporate different systems. For instance, incorporating welcoming gestures, expressive animations, and noticeable visual cues for the guide can help draw players' attention and keep them engaged. We are also looking into different subtitle options, like on-screen text or floating dialogue bubbles, to make sure important information is easy to access. We'll rely on playtesting to figure out the best approach. Ensuring all elements share a consistent level of complexity will create a more cohesive experience, while maintaining the game's cute, warm, and rounded art style. These changes will make the interaction clearer and the world more immersive.
Thank you, Aurora. I'm going to talk about the difficulty we faced in the first half of the semester. Originally, our plan was to complete the first levels and finalize our game design by half. However, during the first few weeks, team discussions were insufficient, our schedule were misaligned, and we relied solely on regular instructor meetings. This leads us to a slow iteration cycles. The lack of clear text assignments caused confusion over responsibilities. And since our game involves transformative elements, ensuring scientific accuracy is crucial. We often rely on our own research and judgments without external support. This slowed our progress even further. Realizing our team faced challenges, we took actions to improve teamwork. We consult SME to ensure our design is correct. We prioritize tasks and maintain a development document as a guide to minimize revisions. Most importantly, we set up short-term goals to help us stay focused on milestones. Our next objective is to complete 2 levels before our playtest day. with limited time, we are focusing on essential assets creations while making the most of every playtest opportunity. To speed up iteration, we will fully utilize every playtest night and hold additional sessions throughout the week, which with clear goals to ensure focused feedbacks and rapid improvements. On March 11, our next playtest night, we will focus on testing our updated environments. And during the week, we will begin playtesting new activity and mechanism for the upper tree levels to gather feedbacks and refine the experience. We will also schedule another SME meeting to address our design choices so far. On March 18th, we will test our tree levels, focusing on gameplay and interactions. This week, we will have our tree level assets finished and start building the water basin level. On March 25th, we will test the newly added narratives and evaluate whether players achieve our learning objectives. During this week, we will also schedule playtests with our target audience. Here's our current progress. Our first level is almost complete with core gameplays and elements and assets in play. We plan to refine the sense of scale in VR and ensure players receive our intended messaging through regular playtesting. Meanwhile, we will begin working on the other levels and aim to have them mostly finished before playtest day, and in the weeks before soft, we plan to have all the levels completed. Thanks for listening. We are open to questions.
So your goal is to have your players aware of the ecosystem. Is that true? Where do you think those reflections or thoughts about that happen in your experience?
So we will have a reflections section, like after a player done the quests and do the activity we wanted, and then we will have a rewarding moments, and we will have a reflecting like information, like discussions, like by the NPC.
Sort of a related question. The overall experience, is it more important for us to learn from this or to gain an emotional connection to the material and go and learn more? Is it, are you education or motivation? And how are you measuring success on either end?
I think our first priority is the educational purpose, and we also evaluate we want player to have motivated by our games that after finishing our game they have knowledge and like motivation to do environmental actions in their own backyard.
Any other questions or comment?
People are getting tired of the fire. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. We are the multi-perspective animation project team, Kaleido. So this is our team, which consists of Dennis, Charlotte, Frida, Sharon, and Jesse, and me, Ileana. So this is a faculty pitch project led by our instructors, John and Ruth. Also, we are supported by our SME, Ayana Ledford. So our project essentially is a 2-minute multi-perspective 3D animation, which features 4 different renders and perspectives. So our story narrative essentially centers around 4 different students coming from different backgrounds, getting together to collaborate, and it's in a meeting. So why are we doing this project? The purpose of our project is to showcase the different and unique perspectives and to explore how visual storytelling influences perception. And we are doing this by experimenting with cinematography, art style, and emotions. And additionally, it can be used, this animation can be used in DEI workshops. So technology, a little bit about it, is a multi-perspective technology which renders 4 different views and perspectives simultaneously. However, you can only see one of the perspectives through the glasses at a time. And we'll be going over the progress updates on our storyboards, our character animation pipeline, as well as the environments and assets, and the shaders that we have created and plan to use in our final animation.
So I will talk more about our narrative and storyboards. As mentioned, our narrative is about 4 university students meeting for the first time to collaborate on a group project for focusing on the campus diversity and inclusion. And we have several design of the characters, and our subject matter expert Ayana chose these 4, and we finalized them as our main characters here. And here we have the international student Luca, who is from Germany, who has a language barrier. And we have the introvert student Ian, the ADHD student Alex, and the first generation student Fiona, who has a part-time job. The narrative is divided into 4 parts based on the 4 major events. The first one is the early arrival, where the international student Luca comes early to practice self-introduction, and the ADHD student Alex and the introvert student Ian comes after him. And the second one is the late arrival. When the meeting has already begun, the first generation student Fiona is late for the meeting because of her part-time job. And the third part is the side distraction, where the introvert student Ian's phone rings during the meeting. And the last part is the fast talker, when the ADHD student Alex and the first generation student Fiona have an argument about the ideas, and they talk faster and faster, which makes the international student Luca feels hard to follow. So besides the 4 perspectives for the 4 characters, we also have a neutral perspective. And to match the 5 perspectives of the scenario, we have a timeline divided into 4 parts by the 4 main events. And we have the neutral perspective storyboard fill in the timeline, and then have the other 4 perspectives align with the neutral perspective. In this case, we can have the 5 storyboards for the 5 perspectives matched in the same timeline, and therefore have the same pace of telling the narrative. Here is a screenshot of the part of our storyboard as an example. As our project is also used for the DEI workshop and the discussion, we will have our guests to watch the neutral perspective together first, and then wear different glasses to watch the different perspectives, and then have a discussion. In case that we don't have enough glasses, or our guests do not have access to the glasses, they can also watch the different perspectives separately, and then come back for the discussion.
So I'll talk a little bit more about the characters, or how it's created. So we utilize the metahuman rig to avoid manual hand rigging, because the facial and rig is very complex. So pipeline on how it works is we sculpt our characters in a DCC such as Blender, and take that into UE to solve and process, and then into the metahuman creator for the final look. So for facial animation, we are using the LiveLink AR toolkit, and how it works is we can see in real time the animations and capture that animation in the engine and record that and add to that, the body. So for clothes, we're using Marvelous Designer to design and create our clothes, but we will be simulating it in Unreal using Chaos Cloth.
So we went to the main campus for the motion capture labs, and as we have 4 characters that need to be animated, so in order to be more effective on recording and also edited animations, we have separated each character story into 5 acts, and we have also recorded each character's individual key poses, so that could be used repeatedly. And early of the semester, we have explored different softwares and the mocap pipelines for the project and also for our own learning purposes. And as we have finalized that our characters are coming from the MetaHuman in Unreal, we find it most compatible to have most process be done on Unreal.
And considering the time and workloads, we decided to take advantage of AI tools to generate some of our 3D assets in the environment. And here we use Triple, which is a 3D AI generative software that can turn text and pictures into 3D models. And after we got the AI-generated 3D models, we do the cleanup manually in Blender and Maya to have a better meshes. And after that, as AI-generated materials are mostly unusable, we fix and make our own textures and materials in Substance Painter. And here is our pipeline for the AI-generated assets. We generate the 3D models in Triple and then manually cleaning them up in Blender and Maya. And then we make the textures and materials in Substance Painter. And finally, we will import the meshes and texture maps into Unreal Engine and link them together.
And our AI generative tools, they works very great, but sometimes it fails to generate a lot of complicated or hard surface assets that we need. And it creates a lot of bugs in the mesh that we cannot fix. Therefore, we decided to hand build some low poly and hard surface models instead of using AI. And this process is sometimes more effective than using AI only. And for our narrative, we set our space in a university meeting room for the characters, but we're trying to avoid this simple and clean meeting room designs. So we did some research for some messy art rooms, and we used other AI tool to generate a mixed design of combining an office-looking room with some art materials. So based on our concept design, we built this room so far. We're halfly finished, and half of the assets that we add are AI-generated assets, and then the other half is handmade. And we're planning on adding a lot more assets into the room, into the hallway, and outside of the window.
And we designed distinct shaders to better express the characters' emotions and personalities. And for neutral perspective, we have a soft blue shader to evoke calmness and objectivity. And based on our research with first-gen students, we find that they often experience imposter syndrome and carry financial or academic burdens, and sometimes they feel overwhelmed. So the shader of first-gen perspective is towards a deep rain tone, and it symbolizes the weight of her emotions and a sense of struggle. And for ADHD students, the shader is high saturate to represent the constant influx of sensory input and her thoughts. And we are developing an oil painting shader to add more depth to our visuals. It will be used to fade the background or the highlights, something we want to stand out. And for characters, we now have a tune shader for general use. And the glint shader will be only used in the peak of ADHD student story.
This is the demo cinematography and render for the international student. It is only a test version, not a final version. We make this demo to show our pipeline works. This is in the early arrival stage in the narrative where the international student is preparing for self-introduction before the meeting starts. We integrated the environment, the character, and animation. We currently don't have the hand animation, and it needs to be done after the break. On the other side, this is the perspective from the ADHD student. While the international student is preparing for self-introduction, at the same time, she is finding the meeting room. We combine the environment, the character. The filter-like color on the render comes from the shader, and it is not finalized yet. We don't have the character animation because we are waiting for the mocap data to apply. For the cinematography progress update, I have finished a block out of the cinematics for the international student perspective and the ADHD student perspective. I also aligned the camera shots so that at any frame, the event in the two perspectives are synchronized. Our last step for the pipeline is 2D graphics and editing. For the abstract illusion and the imagination special effect, we will make them in After Effects and add them to the UE5 render animation. We will either do the editing in the UE5 sequencer or Premiere Pro and have the perspective composition in Premiere Pro. For now, we have our characters, neutral environments, and pipeline almost done. After the break, we plan to push forward the progress of shaders, 2D graphics, dialogue, animation, and cinematography. Regarding our detailed plan from week 8 to week 10, we plan to finalize the character, the animation, and the shader. From week 11 to week 12, we will complete the dialogue, the post-processing, editing, and explore the final render, and we will be ready for the soft opening. To summarize for the hub, we have defined and implemented our art pipeline. Our plan for the rest of the semester is to improve and polish the art for the final quality. The concept of our project is 4 different characters experiencing the same narrative, but have 4 different perspectives. Our final deliverable is to create 4 distinct renders, each with its unique perspective. And that's all. Thanks for listening.
So I may have missed this, but you're saying 4 different perspectives, right? So I choose a character and I walk through that perspective with that character. I see it. I witness that. And then what happens? I can choose another person, correct? And then what happens? Just choose I can go through all 4 people, and that's the end of the experience?
Yes, essentially, because it can be used for like diversity, DEI workshops. So it's for people to really understand people from different backgrounds. Like some are coming from an introvert background or an international background. Let's say why they are talking less. Maybe something's going on. But like, it's mainly for us to feel like understanding and empathy towards people from different backgrounds from you, so you can better understand them. So usually what happens is people will watch each of the perspectives and possibly talk about it. Yeah.
Just follow up on what I think Ralph's asking about. What I didn't quite understand is that you have 4 people watching the same screen, and they can each see something different. But how different are the 4 tracks? Like, my impression was the project would be that they're subtly different, showing what the same events look like to different people. But what you showed me looked like 4 completely different scenes, or at least the cuts between the scenes were different enough that 2 different viewers wouldn't be looking at what they thought was the same thing. They would understand that they were just watching a different movie.
It should be the same. It's the same narrative, and I guess it wasn't really shown in the presentation, but if there was a close-up of the storyboard, it should match up. Stylistically, each one would be different, so people can talk about it, be like, oh, it's the pink environment, or the green environment, or it's that. So each character's sort of color would be a bit different. If that was the slide you were talking about. Was it the shader slide?
I guess what I'm asking is, do you need this technology if what you're doing could just be watched on 4 different screens? Like, how are you playing up the idea that part of the experience is the fact that 4 people are sitting right next to each other and watching a single screen? Like, that specific aspect of the way it's experienced should play into how the technology works.
Yes, you can watch it not using the technology as well, but yes, that is possible. Like, we have it rendered so that you
As
can...
a backup, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, we have a slide to talk about that. It's if you don't have the glasses and we don't have access to the glasses, we have 4 different renders, and you can watch them separately and then come back for the discussion. And also the 4 different perspectives, they are different in cuts and different in scenes, but they have the same narrative and timeline.
You may have mentioned, I may have missed it. What about sound? Are there 4 different soundtracks, and if so, how do they align if we're dealing with different shots in different areas?
We will have separate audio checks, and we may use audio station to output different sound checks for each users. There will be 4 different sound checks.
Time for one more. Okay, thank you, team. Our break. So time for a break. Let's come back in about 5 minutes, okay? First question is, how far away is it coming?
Well, and that's my question to you.
What we have several of these ultra-short perpendiculars.
Okay.
To give you a sense of how they work, if you were to put it right there, like physically as close to a wall as you could,
Right.
you would get a 60-inch wide pencil.
Really?
It's like this, comes out like that. But there's no adjustment.
Oh, so it
It's
has
not
to
like-
be 60
It's not like you can make it like this. We have several of those. As far as regular ones that kind of have
Yeah,
standard,
yeah, yeah.
only one or two maybe out there.
And there are how many lumens?
They're like 3,500.
That's not horrible. That's, yeah, yeah. And the regular ones, how far away to get let's say that this is how wide?
That's about a 200-inch diagonal.
Okay, so not the whole screen, this.
Well, the reason that's cut off is because this screen is not 16 by 9.
So, yeah.
This width is how it comes out.
We checked the email and it's in my mailbox. And it is. I mean, we did talk a little bit when you bring
It's going to be really hard to get in the way. That's what's great about it. That's why we use the
这个没有什么 mic
好像
check
有一个没有一个声音，我记得是。这是有声音的，这有声音，这个有吗？几个电池？
是新电池吗？
应该是新的吧。
哦，是。
还需要另外一个。
那个没有电。
有电，一个绿的。Yeah, let us call our team members.
Yeah,
to the stage. 哎，上台准备。
看我这 works 没有？
Yes.
Okay, let's get back to our seats and we'll get started. 3 more presentations to go. 3 more presentations. All set?
Thank you. Oh, excuse me, can someone please close the door? Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We are Team MSX, stands for Mobility Space Experimental. This is our team. Bonnie is not with us today because she is at a conference in France, and Charles is our solo instructor, and our client is Honda 9IP Labs at Ohio State University.
Okay, let me introduce our client briefly. 9IP Labs derives its name from a quote by the founder of Honda, Soichiro Honda, that success represents the 1% of your work, which results from the 99% that is called failure. They are the Ohio office of Honda Research Institute, USA, and their mission focuses on research and innovation. Part of what they do is to envision the future of automobile industry, and their research and studies could influence Honda headquarters' decision on future strategies. That's why they work with ETC this semester, because they want to establish research to figure out what the in-car experiences will be like in the future. Instead of a concrete, specific, and high-fidelity game or experience, they want us to explore and shape a broad picture about the future of mobility, users, and journeys. And that's about our client. Here is our agenda, and let's jump to project overview. So this is our project prompt. You don't have to read it, too many texts. We tried to understand and scope it down. This was what we saw. Gaming, entertainment, using AR and MR. Include these cool features. Boom. Let's brainstorm and figure out what game we want to make. And after the first couple meetings with our client, we are given these conditions. We aim for 2040 in the North American market. The experiences will happen in an 8-passenger vehicle, mainly for the second and third row passengers, with full self-driving feature under all conditions. And then we came up with a MR dark ride shooting game in car at the quarters, if you remember. Crazy. We picked the low-hanging fruit, and that was not the full reflection of the project prompt. We had to reset and rethink about the experiences we want to create. While we were rethinking, we visited our client in Ohio. We had a couple workshops with them to learn their past projects and approaches, and now we understand what they are looking for. This is how they see the prompt. And the most important part is to increase the owner's value proposition through the experiences. So after figuring out what our clients want, we need to answer 3 questions. What experiences do we want to create? How to make the experiences into AR, MR? And why do we want to create these experiences? To answer these questions, we need to imagine what the future will look like, which leads us to future technology analysis. And let's imagine the future together. So our research focused on 3 technologies: cars, AR, MR, AI, and AI, sorry. we did a self-drive test drive. And then, to be honest, it was very safe and smooth, so the driver and passengers can be free. Next, we look at the car seat possibilities. Swivel seats are not something new indeed. It was something that was invented before, but not widespread, due to safety measures. However, with full self-driving, swivel seat and C-shaped layout could come back one day. For example, in Honda's newest concept car, Space Hub. Besides, not only the layout, but the functionalities of the seat, audio, heat, ventilations, haptics, these are already in the market, but they can be more advanced and accessible. So, in the future, we imagine that car seat to be layout customizable and functionally versatile. Of course, there are more car features to talk about, but we will save them for future discussions. Next, AR/MR. Look at these AR glasses. They are like normal glasses already, and their FOVs are getting closer to human eyes. So, in the future, AR/MR hardware will still be wearables, but with a lightweight size and seamless natural experience. In addition to the wearable, cars today are equipped with chips and computing units. We imagine that the computing power in car can be shared by AR/MR wearables as well. Therefore, real-time, mobile, and powerful spatial computing will be possible. And as AI and gesture detection are becoming smarter, we imagine that future AR/MR interactions will be even more intuitive, simpler, and more accurate. Finally, we don't ignore the rapid growth of AI. People are different. What if AI can be bespoke to your facial expressions and body languages? Imagine you can own your personalized AI, not just an AI subscription service, but own your bespoke AI that knows you better than anyone else. And with generative AI coming to life, we believe AIGC will be high fidelity in the future, generating contents across all media and automated without people telling them what to generate. Finally, AI-generated games are real. What if AI in the future can generate customized experiences related to the trip destination, type of passengers, and different purposes? So that wraps up our future technology analysis. Well, we still haven't answered those 3 questions yet. Let's go back to the conditions we are given. 8-passenger vehicle, second and third row passenger experiences. Now with our vision in full self-driving capability and car seat layout, we realize that family members are brought closer than ever in car, face to face. Is that an opportunity for an in-car family MR experience? Now I will pass to Esme to talk about our validation of audience and persona.
Thank you, Messi. Based on our prompt, we found family as a very ideal target audience to design for. So over the past months, our team conducted primary research to gain insights into actual customer needs concerning family riding experiences. This research involved interviews and surveys targeting parents aged 35 to 60 and children aged 6 to 12. We explored their personal interests, driving behaviors, riding habits, and overall family dynamics. We obtained compelling data that underscores the significance of designing for family driving experiences. And also, we gained direct insights into the personal interests and shared habits of diverse families across North America. For example, everyone interviewed and everyone here must know and is a fan of alphabet game in car. The key customer statements also identify their core needs and shaped our design implications. Through the analysis of family demographics, we recognize the importance of designing for family of varying sizes and age compositions. By examining a broad range of use cases, we prioritize considerations among dynamic trip types. So, by analyzing in-ride behaviors and interests, we discover the cooperative storytelling experiences and audiovisual multisensory integration can enhance our design's appeal across a wider range of age groups. However, several concerns continue to emerge, constraining physical space, age gap, and noise issues, boredom and engagement. They still remain the key issues that we need to address. We also found that even within the context of family driving, both individual and shared experiences should be equally valued. By integrating the pain points and core needs identified across all interviews, we have developed core personas to guide our design process.
So for the family persona, we divided into 2 main parts, the shared persona for the parents and the shared persona for the kids. So first, let's meet our parent persona. He's a 32-year-old web developer balancing work, life, and travel. He mainly drives for work, school pickups. He also experiences long driving for visiting his parents and also going on road trips several times a year. His interests include audiobooks, video games, playing baseball, and also traveling with his family. When it comes to car ride experiences, he faces challenges like limited entertainment, difficulty working on car, and restless kids, and lack of quality family time. His core needs may include novel gaming experiences, improved productivity, meaningful family interactions, and ways to entertain children for a smoother traveling experience. So for the child persona, we have our 9-year-old little boy here. His main traveling riding scenario include going to school and visiting parks and museums during the weekend. And also, he will visit his grandparents and going on road trips. He's really interested in listening to audiobooks, playing board games, drawing, and all the topics related to dinosaurs. So going through his frustrations and needs, we found that encountering new things and involved in engaging activities are essential to make his car ride experience more enjoyable. So based on the above research, we conclude 5 main pain points here and explores opportunities for improvement. Firstly, the VR can create virtual boundaries for the people to address people's need for their private space in car. And secondly, for the restless children, the future entertainment technologies can offer engaging experiences utilizing the car motion. Thirdly, to foster family interaction, collaborative activities such as party games can be developed. And also, in order to make the traveling time more meaningful, educational and creative activities are in our consideration. Finally, the MR technology allows people to engage with the surroundings better, and also connecting the passengers to the scenery along the trip, and also with their final destinations. So let's welcome Yihua to talk about our final concept.
Thank you, Candace. So now let's talk about our final design concept. So first of all, I want to say that we want to create a mixed reality in-car experience designed for the North American family in the year 2040, featuring a family road trip to the Yellowstone National Park. Our clients want a more range of explorations rather than a specific detailed idea, so our design demo is going to be a broad approach. So for this 2-hour road trip, our users will have different kinds of experiences. Starting at the departure, our users will start with a multiplayer gaming experience that everybody can involve in. During the trip, our users will switch from gaming experience to other experiences, including productivity and relaxation. Finally, before the arrival, our users will have a destination-related immersive entertainment experience to learn more about their final destination and to fulfill their curiosity and anticipation. So here are 3 potential final destinations, but we end up choosing the national parks. The reason we chose the Yellowstone National Parks for several reasons. First of all is that Yellowstone is one of the most famous sites in all of America. It's family friendly, allows us to have a lot of design flexibilities, and some of our team members have actually visited the site physically. So we want to create a multiplayer experience by using hand gestures to control 3 famous sites: the Old Faithful Geyser, Wild Bisons, and Morning Glory Pool. We want our players to experience something they cannot experience in real life. So the first site is the Old Faithful Geyser. We want our players to set up the geyser with their hand gestures, and it's going to be a team collab experience, and we're going to have a brief demo on the geological structure on the ground. Second one is Wild Bisons, where the players can have close interactions with the bisons virtually and while being given brief lessons on the wild bisons. Last one is the Morning Glory Pool. We want our players to have the opportunity to customize the colors of the Morning Glory pools while learning fun facts about them. In conclusion, our experience is about building an exploratory MR demo to demonstrate the future in-car family scenarios, and we choose Yellowstone Park to demo the different aspects of in-car mixed reality interactions.
So lastly, about production schedule. So we already have like a very solid foundation, which our client came in agreement with. So let's start making, and of course, bring more playtesters in. And huge thanks for the people who supported us along this journey and took our interviews. Yeah, that's our presentation. Thank you so much. We're now open for questions.
Interesting. Can you talk a little more about how you plan to test this? And you have nothing yet, right? You're moving into the prototyping building phase, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And then we are going to prototype our immersive edutainment experience, and then we are going to test it in the drama room at ETC that with those car seats in there. Yeah, and also, if possible, if we do have the time, then we can create like a car trip scenario in the cavern, and then have those seats placed in the center of the cavern to simulate what the trip is. Yep.
How does being in the car itself impact what you're creating? And I'm preferencing this because when I looked at the demos that you saw, I could imagine just doing that sitting in a room. Like, oh, Yellowstone, let's play this game right here at the table. So the aspect that I'm in a car, I'm looking for you're in motion, the idea of moving through space, or even the scale and space of the vehicle itself that helps you make some design decisions. When and where are you considering those types of aspects of being in a vehicle?
Oh, great questions. So first of all, we talk about the car seat layout in the future. That swivel seat will be possible and C-shaped layout that people can sit face to face in a car that they couldn't do it nowadays. And then we have the pain point that children, when they sit in the car, they fight against each other at the back seat. Like parents are facing towards the front of the car instead of facing to their children. So that kind of connection is lost in car. And then in the future, if the seat layout can solve this problem, then that's a unique opportunity to bring people closer in car. And also for the trip, we said it's destination related. So for example, if you are going to Yellowstone National Park and then to an attraction, that you want to learn more about it, to see something that you are not able to see at the actual site. For example, the underneath, the back scientific knowledge about it, then I think these experiences create the opportunity to help children or help the parents to learn more about where they're going.
To add on Messy's reply, and also during our interview, we found out the best time to learn is before arriving at a certain destination. As we mentioned in our tech research, as the AR generative part, we sincerely believe that our destination is like closely linked to our car experiences. That means you can, like in the future, we believe there's a chance to customize your in-car experience within the destination input.
Any more questions?
I apologize if I missed this. So the length of this trip doesn't matter, or are you looking at various types of trips, different lengths, things like that?
We chose this 2-hour road trip to a national park for several good reasons, because it allows us to have extended amount of time to truly explore the possibilities of in-car experiences in the future. So initially, we envisioned a 15 minutes commute trip, maybe from your home to a grocery store, but just too short for us to actually explore the further possibilities of things. And our clients, after talking to our clients, the people at Honda 99 Lab, they also wish that we can create a more extended amount of time trip versus a short trip.
That's time. Thank you, team.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are Team Interactive Story Labs. I need the clicker. Our experience is about the guest enters the memories of Nova, an android discarded for refusing to replace a lost life. Your role is to help her to recover her true identity. Up on the stage are our team members, and our instructor is Chris. This presentation will be covering our progress overview, progress update, and our future plan. Our deliverable will be a 7-minute interactive film, and it will, for the cavern, including live action and also CGI. 3 features are first, single-player experience, immersive storytelling, and seamless interaction. After quarters, we received some of the feedbacks and we made some iterations. First of all, seamless story interaction integration. Interaction should feel intuitive and enhance the story. Second of all, technical feasibility and audience dynamics. Accurate tracking is hard in Cavern, and we should do more playtests according to that. Emotional and narrative depth. The experience should be encourage curiosity and also create emotional impact. And then I will let Sam to tell us about progress update.
Thank you, Selena. And here are our program progress updates. For our overall progress up till this point, we have completed several demos and prototypes. First of which is a PowerPoint prototype where we storyboarded and projected it onto the cavern to show the experience flow. And the second of which is a virtual mock-up of the house that we are actually shooting in for realistic shot blocking before actual filming. The third demo is we have completed an interaction tech demo showcasing the interactive features. From our playtests, what we've learned is that we identified areas that were confusing and needed improvement, namely giving audience feedback. Also, we gained insights on how to fully utilize the cavern display by making audiences turn their head. Into the story narrative. The overview is that Nova is a store-bought android. She recalls how she was broken and thrown away by her owner, Julian, after refusing to be a replica of her owner's dead wife, Maggie. As you can see, Maggie and Nova are identical, so they represent 2 personas that are constantly wrestling with each other. And this is the theme of the story, identity. Onto the narrative structure. We will have 2 perspectives of the same story. These perspectives are to unravel the 2 personas, namely Maggie on one path, Nova on the other. As the story begins, it foreshadows the end. We find Nova disassembled, lying in the middle of a metal junkyard. And then we go back into diverging paths of how she got there. The first path goes deeper into exposition on Maggie's identity, and the second path goes deeper into the exposition of Nova's identity. As we move forward into the story, it converges again because these 2 identities, conflicting identities, meet each other, and the push-pull begins, escalating to a combination of a crisis that resulted in the disassembled Nova. And then, at the very end, we return to the very first scene that the audience was foreshadowed with, which was the ending, ending up in the junkyard. As for the production side, we have successfully casted both our actors, Isaac Miller, CMU Drama School alumni, and also Maya Usachi, and current CMU Drama School student, and we have also secured the location of the house that we'll be shooting in. And handing over to Felix for more explanation on the interactivity.
Thank you. So I'll talk about the interactivity. And this is a excuse me, interactive film. These are the interactive films that we know in the market. And there are a couple of problems that we already have. First is choice. Choice is supposed to be the main function of the interactive movie, but many viewers see interactive movie as a gimmick rather than genuine storytelling medium. They feel the interactivity detracts from the traditional cinematic experience rather than enhancing it. And also the pausing is another problem that many viewers prefer the passive experience of traditional movie rather than full immersivity of themselves in the story without distractions. And lastly, interactive movies are often compared unfavorably to video games, which offers a lot more comprehensive interaction experiences. So the goal from the research, the goal for our project is, goal for the interactivity is that interactivity as an asset, not an obstacle, seamlessly elevating cinematic immersivity to the next level. And based on the interaction goal, we came up with a creative solution directions. Our creative solution is by tightening the story into the interaction to enhance the full immersivity. So the story will be the UX, and then the cinematography will be our UI. The way how the people interact will be done by metaphors, plots, and foreshadowing inside the movie. Since the goal is to elevate the immersions of film, all supplemental visuals are taken away. This is the first ever attempt on making 100% seamless, zero UI, no pausing interactions. But yes, there will be feedback. People should know what they're looking at. So let me give you a real example of how it's going to be used in our movie. Inside the movie, we are using reflection as a key element to trigger interactions. This is a pretty common method that's being used in the movie already. And reflections can be used in many ways to reflect characters' emotions. Any further emotional elements can be more engaged to the story, and the characters can be discovered through reflections inside the movie. For the UI design as a cinematic treatment, the reflections carries a lot of metaphors, foreshadowing, and plots linked to the other characters or scenes. And lastly, don't worry, even if you miss the interactivity, there will be no problems understanding the whole movie as itself. All we'll be missing is the in-depth knowledge of the characters' emotions. And on the next slide, you're about to see the short mock-up video of our scene. While watching, try to trigger the interactivity by what I told you. So this is like an example of interactivity that are triggered for in-depth story knowledge. So it will give the audience to think like, what's going on? What's with that robot face? What's going to happen to this character to get more further into the scenes? And how will this be applied on cavern? Luckily, cavern has like an enormous screen size, which means there are plenty of cavern size for cinematography composition to play with. Jose, our cinematographer, will talk about that a little more later. And technologies in cavern will detect which side of the screen is being watched. There are several methods to decide interactivity activations, like how long it's been watched, or it's being watched at the right moment of time. I know the cavern is spacious, and some of you are thinking like, why are we not making the good use out of the space? And they can return back to the goal of interactivity as an asset, not an obstacle, seamlessly elevating cinematic immersions to the next level. From the research, we learned that forcing people to move around actually disturbs the immersion. And now I will hand over to Grace to talk about the technology.
Thank you, Felix. For the hardware, we're currently using the Orbic Phantom Bolt, which is a multi-mode depth and RGB camera made by Microsoft and adopted by Orbic. And in the software side, we're currently using a Unity library that specifically works for the Phantom Bolt and a Store Connect for body tracking. And a lot of questions that we've gotten is why are we using the Orbit section for head tracking instead of the vibe trackers? As we mentioned before, we want the experience to be as seamless and interactive as possible. We feel that making the guests wear some type of head device will break that immersion from the experience. So we are experimenting with the over sectors to create a more invisible immersion. And this is a current tech demo. So currently how the Orbex sensor work is that it verifies the user presence in camera view, and it creates, when it detects that user, it creates a meta-human skeleton in the Unity. And specifically, it creates user-joined data with points. And we retrieve that data and use it to transform and the position and the rotation specifically of the head. And we use a ray tracer to see where the user is pointed. Here, right now, how the Unity is divided into five divisions, and when the user is looking at a specific division, it triggers a certain interaction. Right now, as you saw in the demo, the technology is a bit finicky, and we're still struggling with differences of space, probably within lighting and tracking, so we need more testing. And now I'll be handing it to Jose. He will be speaking about cinematography.
Thank you, Grace. For cinematography, this is the most common aspect ratio seen in most devices, our phones, TVs, movie theaters, and this is the cavern aspect ratio. It is too wide, and it also surrounds you. Because of this, you can't see the whole image. What we decided to do is to split the cavern into 3 segments, and using only one camera, and in one take, frame 3 different shots. This is what we aim to achieve, even though we storyboard and shoot in flat and in a smaller scale. This is also an example. Could you help me please play the video, please? Thank you. In which we were experimenting. This is during our test shoot. We were experimenting with a medium shot, medium close-up, another medium shot, but with more negative space. And over here in this piano, there's enough space for a prop that serves also the story, right? So one camera, one take. We also tested with 360 cameras. However, film language does not translate well to it, and we were also not satisfied with the quality of the image. So we're moving forward with the Canon C70. And now for VFX and art, Lucy.
So I'll be introduced the VFX and art part of our project. Our VFX art contains 2 parts. The first one is a full CGI footage rendered from UE5 as the opening and ending scene of the entire film. This is a rough rendering of this film. You see the opening with Noah's head rolling down from a junkyard hill. And then there will be a plot going on between Noah and the bird. And the end. In this scene, we're using assets from multiple sources, including 3D scanning, Quixel Megascan, and customized meta-human mesh for the Android head. The reason why we're choosing full CGI is because compared to set up a live shooting footage place for it, it's much cheaper and faster to just do it in the virtual environment. The second part is VFX that blends into the live shooting footage. We're still in the planning and researching stage, and we're not aiming to have anything too complex for it. That's all for our current progress. Next part is our future plan. This is our plan for the rest of the semester. We'll be mainly working on the live shooting part, but also keep working on other works. And lastly, special thanks to all these people and departments who also help us during our production progress. And we're open to questions.
Let me just make sure I got something right. I'll say it if it's wrong, let me know, and I'll ask the question too. So you're treating the entire cavern as 3 separate 16:9 screens, each one thinking about the cinematography in each one, but they all have to work together as one giant composition. Okay, can you talk about the challenges of thinking that way, and has that caused you to reimagine your story going forward?
Yes, we had many iterations of our storyboard, and the script just because of this issue. Well, not issue, challenge. And we achieved this by blocking the way the actors move and camera movement. We're also limiting ourselves to using wide lenses. And for some shots, we can go with longer lenses, but yeah, it's mostly wide lenses, but it's doable.
So for your segments, have you allocated a certain time frame for each? If I look to the left or to the right, what is the time frame for each one?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
So the single panels that you're showing, when I look to the left or to the middle or to the right, how long is each mode, or nodule, I should say, video segment?
The whole duration of the scene, they all play at the same time.
Oh, they're all at the same time. So I'm
Yeah,
not looking
because it's
like
one camera and in one take.
Okay, so all that's going on at the same time, and I can look at wherever I want to look and see anything, right? Anything I want.
Wherever you choose to watch, you are watching part of the story.
Okay, thank you.
When you showed the flow chart of your plot, I noticed that one of the plot points is that Maggie has ALS. Have you talked to any subject matter experts or scientists to make sure you're handling that properly?
That would be a no, but it's also a part of, I initially envisioned it as a metaphor, and because she is an identity that is being trapped in an android body, and that is not, I guess I thought of it as a poetic metaphor, being trapped as an android, and also the identity that she was being forced on was also a person who was trapped inside their own body. But the short answer is no.
Sounds like you probably should talk to someone.
For sure.
I think there's a lot of interesting stuff in this presentation, and I'm excited to see the final piece. It seems like a very big project. Do you think you will finish?
Yes.
Well, what are some of the challenges that you have to face to finish the project?
Some of the challenges that we're facing right now is that the cavern is very different from testing on my desk. So there were some technical challenges that I cannot replicate there, that we are now consulting more experts to tackle that. That's the storyboard challenge, as Jose mentioned, are other ones, but we are tackling that by doing a lot of tests and looking at the cavern and see how it looks. And I don't know if anybody wants to say anything else.
Okay, real quick, and I'm glad you're on this slide. You said the whole thing plays out as that's one shot. You pieced it together, but that space is continuous. So it's essentially a gigawide movie, but you're playing it on a curved screen. So it's not a 360 film. It's a wide film that you're wrapping around. And that's ended up looking okay. Okay.
So if I may add something on top of it, it's kind of closely related to the interactivity too, because traditional cinema, it leads people to look at the one point only, and it kind of controls those points to one another. But since it's an interactivity, and also we have to use a peripheral view, we are guiding those points to those 3 different screens times now. We are not showing all points on every 3 screens, so we are guiding them on different screens by screens to let them people look around those turns. And the interactivity goes with it. So we're leading those lines.
Okay, that's time. Thank you, guys.
No, with this other kid, parents own the house.
可以字体弄大一点，在下面，下面。没事会滑。
Okay. Good afternoon, we're Team MS6. We aim to create extended reality experience that invite the guests to explore throughout their physical space. So we have a talent team of 6 members. We have Nina, the producer, our designer, Yawen, Helen as the artist, Regina and Irene as the artist as well, and also our programmer, Oliver. Our instructor is Bruce, guiding us throughout the semester with enormous support and mentorship. So for this project, our goal is to explore more possibilities of the XR experience, pushing the boundaries of storytelling and interactivities. This project also serves as a starting point of the future development of the XR experience. So we adapt our production pipeline, starting with research and development. And then we enter the half point of the semester, we design the core mechanics for our full experience. So we start playing a lot of MR games, and then we prototype a lot of interactions out of those inspirations. And then we play test them, pick out the ones that work out the best, and then design around a full experience around that. So for our deliverable, we'll have a catalog that has all of our interactions as our history, tracking, and for visual reference, and also a full experience for demonstration. So let's look at some of the highlights of the interactions. We develop of the depth of the physical space and putting up some of the virtual objects on the physical space.
Okay, so let me go through our case study research. To design a better XR experience, we played and analyzed XR games such as Starship Home and First Encounters. We pay a close attention to how they approach interaction and immersion. As a team bonding activity, we tried VR Squad Game. On top of that, we researched and analyzed many previous ETC, AR, MR, and VR projects to see how they approach the similar challenges. So we learned a lot of things through this experience. First, even the simplest interactions like grabbing objects can be surprisingly fun in XR. Second, one of the most magical moments in XR is when the virtual worlds blend seamlessly into real environment. Seeing virtual objects appear right in our real environment. Like a spaceship landing in rooms, felt incredibly immersive and exciting. And finally, what makes an XR experience truly memorable are those wow moments, like being able to pull virtual items straight up from the floor. These interactions make the experience feel alive, like the virtual world is truly part of our own. We kept all these insights in mind as we moved into our explorations, experimenting with new ways make interactions feel immersive, intuitive, and most importantly, fun. So we found Quest 3 can regularize a lot of things, such as wall, ground, and windows. Based on the case study and Quest 3's capability, we came up with 4 sprints, including 24 interactions and effects. I'll pass to Irene and Regina to talk more about the selected ones.
So our first sprint is automatic registering. We use Quest 3 to scan the entire environment and register wall, ceiling, ground, window, and posters. We use Boopin as a starting space. So the yellow parts indicated by the diagram are now replaced by a virtual forest setting where we are able to see through with depth. Upon that, we advance our exploration on window because it takes a crucial part in our design. We focus on how to make interactions happen between the inside and outside world so they can blend together. And thus, we design a list of actions. First, the player can grab an indoor object. Then he can use it to attract a giant creature outside the window, in this case, a huge octopus. Then he can interact with it with a high five. And finally, the creature can break through the window to enter the inside room and enhance the overall tension. And our second sprint is building up environment. So for this sprint, we shift our focus from virtual setting to physical environment, and our main goal is to build up from the physical space, which is the furniture, floor, and wall in our rooms. So here are two main effects. The first one is the shadow illusion created by decal projection that can travel between the floor and the walls. And the second one is the vines that can grow upon the furniture that is procedurally generated by a tool.
And for next sprint, we create several special visual tricks for the players. Instead of directly changing the objects in the scene, we play with what players can see in our virtual space. For example, we added a magic lens that can reveal the hidden elements floating in the air. And we also made a virtual flashlight that can light up both the real world and virtual space to make the exploration more engaging and immersive. And for the last sprint, we focused on testing the gesture recognition in Quest 3. Now players can pull the shelves out of the walls or grounds with a very simple pull motion. And then they can grab the objects and throw them naturally. And they can also open the cracks by spreading their arms apart to create a portal in the space. And we wanted to make all the interactions as intuitive as possible so that the whole experience feels seamlessly immersive.
From the tech perspective, we found that there were some technical limitations during the development. As we mentioned before, although the vine looks good in the scene, its high poly mesh causes a huge delay, which annoys the player. Another problem is that MetaQuest doesn't have the function to recognize players' foot position. And the virtual floor or object will block players from seeing their real feet. As we show in the GIF, it will look better with the virtual body, which means we placed our floor on the right floor position. However, because of the visual illusion, it makes players very confused about the depth of where they are standing. And since the virtual body is not stably anchored to the player body, we decided not to use it anymore. Beyond those limitations, we also conquered some challenges. In order to better understand how mixed reality works, we divided the scene into 4 parts, which are inside objects, pass-through, outside objects, and skybox. After testing them one by one, we figured out their overlay relationship. This helps us realize some interactions we want to achieve. First, we decreased the render queue of the virtual window material below the pass-through mesh in order to see the outside object and the skybox behind it. As you can see, the pass-through is blocking the skybox. However, if we put a window with a lower render queue in front of the pass-through, the camera will render the skybox first. This is how we make our virtual window effect. The other one is the magic lens. We want the players to review hidden objects through the lens. To realize this, we use the technique called stencil mask. The mechanic of a stencil mask is that if we set a stencil ID of our lens and the hidden object layer as the same number, we can see all objects in the hidden object layer with the lens. So for example, we set them all to 1. We can use lens to review all the hidden objects. We were supposed to use the same technique to make the crack, which can let player view another world and set the station ID to another number. However, it somehow doesn't work properly. Since we only need the skybox to be reviewed, we attach the skybox to the crack's shader. In this way, the crack becomes a common object with a skybox as its shader, which can be reviewed directly by the camera without using any masks.
Now let's talk about playtest and improvements. Over the 4 sprints, we gained valuable insights from playtesting and meeting with multiple ETC professors. We learned from 4 key perspectives. First, we observe how players behave in headsets and also have them share their motivations and thought process. And second, we test our demo in different room settings, including our office, Hunt Library, and also our apartments, to see the potential and limitations of AR in different space settings. And third, we evaluate each of our 24 sprint pieces based on the feedback we receive, and also the technical feasibility, to decide whether to proceed or block the ideas. And fourth, we identified the key factors that make an AR experience successful, including the wow moments and freedom of exploration. So all these insights come into guiding us on designing our final project. Based on our findings, we decide that our core mechanics will be a travel machine that can take the player's own entire home onto an adventure to various virtual spaces. So the player can preview the world through the expandable cracks, and then select their destination and launch the machine. Upon arrival, the players will be able to see the virtual world through their actual window and experience unique stories in each one. Players will also be given 2 fun portable tools that will assist them in exploring the space. A collector that can be placed anywhere in their home, and to collect and bring in objects from the outer world. And also a vision gate that can be attached to surfaces such as the wall, ceiling, and ground, and see through them. We believe that these 3 core mechanics will serve as a strong foundation for future fun interactions to be developed. Now here's a top-down map for our basic room setting. We're thinking of designing the experience for 2 connected rooms with at least 1 window. After getting their travel machine prepared, players will be able to walk around, see through the windows, and also use the collector and vision gates that we gave to them.
So up to this point, we already start to build up the demo for experience. We designed 5 different worlds that the players can choose different themes to explore within that space. So considering about the limitation of time, we control the scope and really to focus on 2 of the worlds with more detailed exploration and interactions for the players to interact with. And for the rest of the 3 worlds, we will apply relatively simple and more universal interactions, still fun enough for them to enjoy the core mechanics and also enjoy the freedom of explorations. And from the technical side, our programmers start implementing all those core mechanics from the prototypes that we did before throughout the first half of the semester with the sprint. And our artists are already producing all the art assets. So by the end of the semester, we aim to create a magical and fun experience for the players to explore with both in the physical space and the virtual world. So to sum up, we are creating XR exploration, starting with research and development, and follow up with the demonstration project. And now we're open for questions.
What was the most surprising thing you learned in your experimentation?
I will start. One of the things is that the simplest mechanics or interactions is one of the most surprising outcome that people just genuinely feel that's impossible and magical in the virtual world, but that was just so satisfying for them to just get the direct feedback.
I think I would like to see towards the end, if you can pull from Meta's toolkit that they send developers, right? Because Meta ships and they talk about core mechanics. And at some point, I need to see this is what is supported by Meta. This is what they put out there. This is what most producers of VR content do. And then show how you're differentiating yourself from that list. Like what's new, what are you discovering, and how is that different? But unless we kind of like see it and compare, it's hard for me to wrap my mind around what's new versus what's conventional. You're not being as explicit yet.
I think up on this point, we started more from the design, from the interactions, rather than just fully from the technical side. But I think we do think that is a pretty helpful suggestion for the rest of the explorations.
Okay, so your target audience is young adults. Do you feel that the worlds that you're taking us to are satisfactory for young adults? Or now that you've got this worked out, what plans do you have to just play with the space, play with the possibilities, and make something that's really over the top, dynamic? Just what plans do you have going forward to make this really exciting for young adults?
Repeat the
summarize
the question.
So you're offering us a chance to go to all of these different worlds. Are we stepping through and actually visiting, or are we holding up a window? And if we're holding up a window to those worlds, what are you guys doing to really make that an exciting journey? You worked out the tech, so now how are you going to make the experience really punchy?
So you first, as the image starts up here, you first preview out of the window of the worlds that you wanted to go instead of just step into it, but you can preview within that window, and then you can select within those 5, and then after you click the go or confirm, then we travel you through that world, to that world.
Time for one more.
So I was curious, for your project, are you trying to focus more on like the interactivity exploration part of XR, or are you trying to create a more aesthetically appealing and fun, engaging? Like, is it more experiential, or is it more like, oh, we're trying to try new things, and also like, are you worried about performance? Because I'm worried about it. So that's what I'm asking. With the VR headset, sorry.
Okay, so to answer the question, we started with R&D, and then we're finding the possibilities of how the interactions could be fun instead of complete a full project at the end throughout the whole semester. So that's why we spent first half of the semester doing a lot of research and prototyping, try those mechanics our own, and then figure out what could we do from our end. And considering about motion sickness or like wearing headsets for a long time, we do consider that. That's why we limit our project to be only around 3 to 5 minutes. So to reduce as much as possible so that the player could enjoy those fun interactions and also just not getting sick of it.
Thank you.
Thank you, team. Have a great spring break.